PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. What's up, everybody? Welcome to PLD Projects. Welcome to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host, PLD, on the PLD Projects Network. And as always, I'm with my own Chewbacca, Matty Gunner. How are you doing? That's pretty good. I like that. How you doing, Matt? How you doing, Matty?
I'm doing good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. I feel like we've done a lot of these this weekend because we had our bonus episodes. So we've actually done in between episodes, so to speak. So we've been talking a lot about Star Wars, and I love it.
How great were our seasonal co-hosts? I refuse to call them guests.
Right?
How great were our seasonal co-hosts, Adam and Paul? That episode was just fantastic.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out that one, that's the Solo Celebration. That was our last episode, our first non-review episode, where we had a crossover with the movie guys, Ford Fiesta. Shout out to them both. They were exceptional seasonal co-hosts, friends. We had a grand old time with a lot of clips, a lot of talking about Harrison Ford in and out of Star Wars. It let us spread our wings a little bit to go beyond Star Wars, which was kind of cool for a moment. And I also want to shout out the Ford Fiesta. They mentioned their time on here. They seem to have a grand time as well. Played some clips and everything else. So hopefully that won't be the last time we have them on there. We got some good guests. Ken Knapsack a couple weeks ago. Paul and Adam this week. It's just a good time to be on Holy Snokes.
Very good time. Very good.
Got a lot of Star Wars to talk about. Obviously, this is back to our more normal schedule. We do have a Bad Batch episode to review from last night, and we got a lot of news. Some of it, most of it, called from the Empire article, the Empire magazine that's going to be coming out. I believe it's dropping tomorrow. But yet they drop all the quotes and stuff beforehand. I got kind of a teaser. One thing I gotta say is that when I look at all this news on Star Wars News Net, which is where I gather most of my Star Wars news because I like what they do. They're positive. They tend to be very good about designated whether this is like true fact, rumor, speculation, all that kind of stuff. So it's easy to keep things straight. I think that it's funny that like you look at all the quotes and everything they showed out, like how much more is in the article? It's like I feel like I must have read the article, everything I've read, but like we still got more to come. But I don't know. It's a lot of good stuff to talk about, a lot of drop, and that's not the only thing. We got other stuff as well. We should get right into the news. Are you ready to?
Yeah, let's do it.
Punch it. All right,
punch it.
First thing I'll take is not from that article. It's actually from StarWars.com. It was D. Bradley Baker, the star of the Bad Batch in every way possible.
Star of the Bad Batch, star of the Clone Wars.
And also a star of the upcoming Young Jedi Adventures, which we'll touch on briefly. He had a couple of quotes talking about upcoming surprises for the Bad Batch. I'm going to read you two quotes, and then we'll react to them. He says, his story is about Crosshair now. His story becomes very, very interesting. My favorite episode is a Crosshair episode. It's coming up about 3/4 of the way through. It's a really interesting story, and his own personal journey is particularly interesting to me. It's a real standout this season. Crosshair is this interesting coiled snake of a guy who's got a very odd, contrary opinion and viewpoint of things. I mean, his job is not only to hit things from a stealth distance, but I think he also views the world and other people from this distance as well. Because of that, he's an interesting character. The voice is the quietest of all the Bad Batch, certainly, but he's not arch. He's not pure evil. He's ultimately a rational guy, and there's some humanity in there, too. Thoughts on that quote?
Interesting. I mean, we're going to get to why this choice that he may have to take could be very important, but that is very intriguing that he, I don't think he is a bad guy. I think he's just a guy who lost his family and was looking for some kind of connection, and he's good at this one thing. He's good at killing. He's good at shooting. He's a soldier. It's what he is.
Yes.
And he lost one life, and the life that he's currently living is not the one he thought it would be. So Yeah, I've often said he's one of my favorite. I like to think he's an anti-hero. He's one of the most complex characters, I think, in Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely. This is the kind of character we love to see. Like we've always loved me, the Darth Vader, the Anakin fall to Darth Vader. He's a good guy, he's a bad guy, he's in between. Seeing their journeys is always a good part of Star Wars. Kylo Ren, same type of thing. Where do they end up? Where do they come from? Where do they go? Are you ready, Cotton Eye Joe? Whatever.
I was going to go come from the land down under, but
I want to talk about this, but I want to save my. It's going to come. I would save my opinion for later on in the show as part of our segments, and you'll understand why when I get there.
Okay.
But similarly, another quote was, "The adventurous twist of plot and turns of fate are coming that will be unexpected. Some will be welcome and some will not, but it's a heck of a ride. I think fans are going to be very happy with this, where the second season goes. It's an exciting thing to be a part of and to experience with a fresh mind, not knowing what you're going to see or what's going to happen." Because that, for me, was always part of the thrill of Star Wars. Tracking back to the original Episode 4 and even Episode 5, the best thing is being surprised and knocked out by something that you haven't seen or didn't expect. And there's a lot of that coming your way. So buckle up, because here it comes. Now, that quote I like a lot. Because like a lot of fans, some fans are like a little idioty about you have the enhancement episodes that aren't quite like the big plot points. Right there is saying there's stuff coming up that you're going to be excited about. I also think it's interesting that he points out specifically, some will be welcome and some will be not. Now, I don't know, or some will not be welcome. I'm wondering if part of that is the Echo leaving, if that's the kind of thing he means, or if there's more coming that's even going to be a little more shaking up of the status quo, so to speak. But either way, I mean, my own opinion, it's D. Bradley Baker. He's got to hype up the show. So you can only take these quotes with so much of a grain of salt. Let's be honest, not to be cynical at all, but he's not going to come out and say, this show sucks. He's gonna plug it, right? He's gonna plug it any way he can. But yet, the way he specifically mentioned some of the stuff, he seems excited about it. So okay, be excited about it. I think we're going to get I think we're about to enter a hyperspace into the end of the second season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think once we get past this 2-part act, I think it's gonna be like straight in, like, okay, we've set this stage now. We've got 6 episodes left after this one. Punch it. Let's go. Let's finish this.
Right. It's interesting you mentioned that. I think I will jump ahead to our episode, just briefly touch on it. I think it's you got to understand that we just had the 2-part mid-season event, as they call it. So obviously this next one is usually they take a breath a little bit in between, a little bit more character development, because you got to have those moments in between. So I expected that, and some people didn't, but it's not here nor there. I agree with you entirely. I think we're going to kind of like take a pause. Although the fact that it's a 2-parter, which I was kind of surprised at, because we kind of went from a 2-parter into almost another 2-parter at the end, because this was definitely not ended. This is definitely not end in the spot where they usually end, not like an episodic adventure. We're continuing. They're still stranded on that planet. And Sid's judgment is coming, possibly, or we'll talk about that as well. But I do think this is exactly what you're saying. I think it's a good setup for it. This is the 9th episode of the season, correct? Am I right on that?
Yeah, this is the 9th.
It's 9. So yeah, so we are going to
6 left.
We're going to go into a couple of different things, and I think one of those things is going to be a crossover episode, like you said, and that's going to come up soon. But either way, we're going to start barreling towards the end very soon. So I'm excited about that as well. All right, moving on there. Next bit. Speaking of D. Bradley Baker, speaking of Young Jedi Adventures, like I said, they actually had the first first images were revealed. Obviously, it's going to be coming out on May 4th. May the 4th makes a lot of sense. Set during the High Republic, focused on younglings Kai Brightstar, Alyssa Soleil, Nubs, as voiced by D. Bradley Baker, and their friends Nash Durango and RJ83, which, I mean, I gotta say, I thought of this too. I watched Force Center the other day, and I'm excited right away. Is it Return of the Jedi 1983? Is that basically how we're naming the droid? RJ83? I like that.
Yeah.
That same thought.
That's good. I like that.
That same thought. So it made sense to me. It's not a show, obviously, we're going to do much of a deep dive into Unholy Snokes. It's how we meant for preschoolers and a little bit beyond that. But it's still fun to mention. It's still fun to see. Nubs is pretty damn cute, I got to say. He might, I don't think he'll challenge Grogu on the whole, but he might give him a little bit of
Wait, who?
Dave, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Dave. No one's challenging Dave.
But he is kind of like he might make a big hit of his own if some of our friends' reactions to them are any indication, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? Let's. I'm gonna go a little bit forward. We'll save the Empire article to the end because there's a lot of Empire stuff. Um, we had a couple of things. First of all, Jon Favreau also talked to Variety this week and talked about the Mandalorian, talked about the Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka, and mentioned Skeleton Crew. The biggest part of the article, which for me was the fact that he said that unlike how they introduced Ahsoka and Mandalorian and Boba Fett in Mandalorian as well, we're not going to see, don't expect to see anything from Skeleton Crew in the Mandalorian season 3. And I don't know if he actually mentioned Ahsoka as well, but he kind of seemed to think that he wanted to debut that on their own separately before they do connect. They do connect. He mentioned that before they do connect, but this is going to be completely on its own. I like that idea a lot. I think too much backdoor piloting can be bad for. I think it just sometimes it gets a little messy. Sometimes it gets a little. It can kind of hurt the actual prime show. Like you're doing a backdoor pilot of a show, another show, then you're doing it to service another show, not the show you're actually working on. So to me, it's kind of a cool thing. We'll get a debut of Skeleton Crew. Excuse me. Let them develop out on their own, and then we'll bring them in. I think it's kind of a cool way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, shout out to Jon Favreau for getting his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yes,
incredible achievement. But yeah, I'm glad because I think Mandalorian season 3 is going to be setting up a larger story. It's going to be the first building block to the larger story, that big endgame level event that they've been talking about. This is going to be the first. We've had the build up of we know who Din are, we know who Grogu are. Like we've had the 2.5 seasons to build their relationship. Now we start to lay the foundations for that big event. We know who Ahsoka is. We know who Din is. We know who Grogu is. Like the blocks are now being put into place. So I'm glad that they are going to be like, okay, Skeleton Crew is going to be its own thing for now.
Right. I like that too. I do think, as I said, I think it's a great idea. I can't wait for Skeleton Crew. I'm very excited about it. There's a lot about that is making me. I mean, it's kind of funny because you have these stories these in mind. We had the Mandalorian first, which kind of like did this whole like, well, we're gonna tease on your love for Boba Fett. We're gonna not do Boba Fett, but do a little bit like that. So we kind of had this like little midway point in. Got all these new characters which we love. Got the Book of Boba Fett. We're gonna get Ahsoka. All these characters we know and we want to know more of. We want to see more of. We had something like Andor, which people didn't really ask for. I hate saying that. I should take that back. I always say that.
No, you're absolutely right. No one did ask for it, but we shouldn't have to ask for these things.
Yeah, that's why I hate saying it. I feel like we don't really ask for anything.
I think you're finding that. Look, I think you're finding that. We didn't ask for it, but not in the sense of, oh, we didn't ask for this. Guess what? I didn't ask for a pizza the other night, but I had one and it was awesome.
Oh, it was awesome. Exactly. And Andor was awesome. And Andor has become probably some of the best Star Wars television we've ever gotten, and something that I was not necessarily super excited for. With that in mind, that's changed. That's kind of like I look at Skeleton Crew and I'm like, I kind of like this concept. I like the ambulance idea. I like the wandering around. It also makes me think that this is going to be set. I don't know if they ever confirmed this or not. This is maybe my old age showing and my senility starting, but I don't think they ever confirmed this take place. Does this take place like where Thrawn was, like the outer space, the wild rim, outer rim kind of place? So we don't know the uncharted territories. Outer rim.
I don't think it's in the unknown regions. I think it's in the outer rim.
Because it'd be interesting if that's how they do it. I mean, it's like the way about Favreau's talking, like one way not to connect at all is have it be way, and then when Ahsoka comes back from her journey, obviously she's back. Maybe they kind of followed her to a degree. I mean, not necessarily literally followed her, but kind of go in from there. Maybe they have their own connections at some point out there. Either way, I'm excited about it. I can't wait. It looks like it's gonna be done filming sooner. It's done filming and it's getting ready to do some more post-production. Going to be hitting the end of this year from what I gather. No date has been set, but that's always been like the goal was like December, somewhere around there.
Yeah, all I'm saying is Jude Law lives here. Celebration's coming up. Jude Law lives here.
I think the celebration has the potential to be huge because they've kind of held back on a lot of things recently.
Have you seen who's going to be there?
And all the people that are going to be there. Yeah, there's a lot of people going to be there.
Rosario and Hayden.
Yep.
They're the same weekend, doing autographs and photo shoots on the same days. Mhm.
Detective Matty at work. I like it. I think we're going to get a lot from that. I think we're going to get Ahsoka's obviously the next big one after Mandalorian. Not obviously Mandalorian's already going to be a month in by that time, so they have to. You realize that Ahsoka's got to be the big thing in Celebration because that's the big thing they're going to have to try to push. It's the next thing.
Yeah,
But Skeleton Crew's right after that, so we should get something from that as well. I think.
because Rosario's there the Sunday and the Monday, I think there's a good chance that it's going to be what they close with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's a big one. I think we'll get some other smaller teases. I mean, we can maybe get something from Skeleton Crew. Maybe like I don't know, maybe a sizzle reel, something like that. Something like that, and go there. Maybe some Acolyte stuff as well. But maybe I'll have to say. All right. So next news point before we get to the Empire article, Bob Iger was talking to Disney to shareholders about Disney Plus, and specifically the most important parts of the article was that he's promising that Disney Plus is going to lean harder into Star Wars and their other IP brands, the Marvels, the Star Wars, the Avatars, things of that nature. It's going to cut back on more of their original programming. And I have two thoughts on that. As a film goer, film fan, general entertainment fan, I always kind of don't like that we have put everything into the IP boxes. I love Marvel movies, but having all the Marvel movies out all the time, and I'd like to get some other movies in there as well. That does strike me a little bit like, okay, well, we're calling out any originality to go just for IP. Then on the other hand, there's the Star Wars fan and goes, we're getting more fucking Star Wars. I'm excited. Yeah. So it's a little bit of torn news. I mean, I guess I think there's room for both, but I think that it's probably a smart idea for them as they're trying to build back Disney Plus after they lost some subscribers due to the Premier League and things of that nature that went down. Bob Iger sounded a lot more positive than some of
the Premier League? Well,
the Indian Premier League, they ceased their streaming deal with the Indian Premier League.
Oh, okay. I remember like the Premier League. I was like, wait, what? What was that been on Disney Plus? One documentary on Wrexham who aren't even in the Premier League.
But yeah, so he was talking about like subs and talking about what they want to do. But either way, I guess the best for Star Wars fans, the fact that they're going to lean harder on Star Wars, it means we're going to get a little more. Even if it's not, I don't think it necessarily means a lot more because they're also talking about slowing down the Marvel.
I was going to bring that up. Feige was saying that from Daredevil, they're going to start pulling back,
which is good. I think that's something that Chapek, from the news, is that Bob Chapek kind of forced their hand, and Kevin Feige's been wanting to slow down a little bit, give them a chance to breathe, and give them a chance to really move out, which I think is a smart idea. I really do.
I agree because it's and I thought I was crazy when I first started thinking of this. I'm getting kind of burnt out on Marvel.
Yes and no. It's not as much as I'm getting burned out in that it isn't as much of an event as it used to be. That I'll give it to you.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a better way of saying it. Like I'm just like it'll go straight from WandaVision into Loki into Ms. Marvel into Moon Knight. And it's like whoa. Let me finish the story that I just started.
Right. Let me read it in a little bit. I mean, let's be honest with you. Ant-Man premieres this week, and I have not seen I've seen some news and some sort. Like obviously the reviews are a little middling, but it's kind of funny how a Marvel movie used to be a big oh my god, it's Marvel week. It's the debut of a Marvel movie, and this one doesn't feel that way. It feels like okay, yep. Everybody's looking forward to Guardians 3. This is you're missing out on a big beginning of Phase 5 starts this week. It doesn't seem as hype as it usually is.
Yeah.
So I think what we're going to see, and I'm hoping actually we're going to see, and hopefully this is what happens in my sake. I think we slow down on Marvel a little bit. Maybe we boost up on Star Wars a little bit in different ways. Maybe we get more animated series, a little more different ways to do things. I really want to see. We have the Marvel one shots. We've had a couple of Marvel one shots, like the Halloween episode and things like that. And I want to see a Star Wars. We have enough things. We get a Star Wars one shot. Let's get
Star Wars Halloween.
Let's get a Star Wars Halloween one shot, or you just get a Hondo one shot, or something like that. We doesn't get somebody you don't get a whole series with, but you can get a movie, or not a movie, but an hour special or something. Be fun.
Imagine Giacchino doing a Halloween special, but a Wampa.
Yeah.
Instead of a werewolf.
Oh yeah, that'd be freaking great. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of what Tales of the Jedi does a little bit. They kind of had a special, and it was just broken up into 3 spots. That's something we can do. I hope we can do more things like that. Let's do it. All right, real quick, we're got to get into the meat and potatoes of the show here. I got a couple more news bits I want to talk about real quick. We did get the first clip of Mandalorian season 3, showing Carl Weathers reuniting with Din and Dave. If you don't know, if you haven't watched Count of the Force, Grogu is Dave is what we call Grogu. He named Dave before he was named Grogu. We had to give him a name, and we just called him Dave.
I think I was calling him Dave before Scoundrels. I think the very first time when it was you, me, Jarvie, and Ferris. And I was like, no, his name's Dave, because he didn't have a name at the time.
Yeah, we just need to call him something. So I call him Baby Yoda. So
I was just like, he looks like a Dave to me, so he would forever be known as Dave. But yeah, Din and Dave rolls off the tongue a lot. It reminds me of like the old school Chaz and Dave. Like Din and Dave.
Din and Dave, I love it. Either way, though, we have them in the first clip, and it was a great clip. It was a nice clip. It wasn't earth-shattering, but we get to see, obviously, the baby is still hungry. Get those clips. But interesting also seeing where Din is at. Like, they had this whole idea, like Carl Weathers being like, well, what happened? You're still with him. I thought you were supposed to getting him to the Jedi or getting him to his people. And Din is like, yeah, I did. It's complicated.
He came back. It's complicated.
It's came back. It's complicated. Now we're going to Mandalore. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. But so it was just good to see. It's exciting to see a first clip. It's exciting. It's coming up very soon now, a couple weeks away. 14 days.
There were two things in the clip that I really loved. One being Dave using the Force to spin himself.
That was my favorite part.
That was so good. But there was also the moment where Din was like, I'm an apostate to the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
And Grief Karga was like, yeah, but you're a gentry here. Like, we don't care.
Yeah.
And I love that shows Din, people outside of the Mandalorians being like, dude, we don't care if you take your helmet off. Yeah. You're a handsome dude. We'd probably prefer it if you did.
That's right. He's got a home there if he wants one. But that's what pushing it forward. He needs to find the home. He needs to save his own home. He's got to figure out his past, his future, his present. It's all coming together. He's got all these things coming on. So it's going to be an interesting season for sure. But let's all talk about that season as we go forward. Let's go talk about the Empire articles. We had a bunch of different quotes from a bunch of different pieces of The Mandalorian. Pedro and Katie were the first ones. Pedro Pascal said, what I love most about season 3 is how much the world opens up in terms of Mandalore and Mandalorians. That means so many different facets of the culture, politics, and rules and discoveries. Delicious doors are flying wide open. Now, that just tells us everything we need to know from that third thing. We're getting Mandalore. We're getting a lot of Mandalorians. We're getting everything about it, the politics, the rules, getting discoveries. I think there's a lot of different ways we can get to go. I think we're going to get some flashbacks. I think we're going to get some different. It's going to be, for Mandalore lovers, this is going to be the season for you. And the season for Dave Filoni, because we know how much Dave and John both love the Mandalorian culture, and this is what they've been building towards.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, shout out to our friend Sean Sullivan. Like he loves everything to do with Mandalorian culture. I know that that is his one of his main loves in Star Wars. So I know he's gonna absolutely love to hear something like that. But me too, man. Like I've always thought that the Mandalorians are like the samurai, the Spartans of Star Wars. There's all different like families, different clans, and it's just it's so interesting for like each one of them to like have their own separate belief system,
right? Their
own separate like group of values,
right?
What they think a Mandalorian should be,
right? Absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna be good stuff. Also, from the same article, we did have Bo-Katan. Got her saying, Bo-Katan, Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan. I was texting John and Dave, are you serious? This is an epic season. It's so big, it's so bold, and so different, she promises. And we know the family that she was born into. Now, what's the family that she's going to choose? What does that look like? That, to me, is fascinating. Fascinating stuff. We obviously we know her history more than anybody else. We know we had her in the Death Watch in the beginning, and she was very brutal, very dark. We saw her turn that around, and like in honor of Satine, in honor of her sister, she fought for the good side, tried to be more peaceful. Obviously, it didn't work out for her. We didn't get the whole story on that, but it didn't work out for her. Now she's back trying to get the Darksaber again. Where does she end up? Is she with the Mandalorian she's with? Is Din going to represent her new family? The picture that they showed almost looked like a family, a father father, mother, and baby Dave, so to speak. But
Yeah.
Zach, I'm not sensing there's going to be a romantic thing between them, but it does mean like, is Zach going to be home for them?
I mean, that one picture of the two of them standing on the beach with the baby in between, it was kind of a mom and dad, like, day of the beach kind of shot.
It was, wasn't it? That's what I thought. But I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would be shocking. Kay did go on and say, I've lived in this woman's skin for a long time now. One of the things that John and I focused on is where she is in the moment, what peppers her experience. What peppers her experience. John and Rick every day, single day, defer to me, which is a crazy experience to have these masters asking me what I feel. It respects the craft and the years that I've put in. I really do know her. Her pain is my pain. When she experiences something, I really feel it. I love that. I love that so much. I think it really shows how much she cares about the franchise, how much she cares about the character, and where we're going with it. I think anybody that committed is only going to do good for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she is not just the body of Bo-Katan, she's the voice. She, like, everything that Bo-Katan embodies in not just her physical form, but her mental and emotional state as well.
Right.
Katie embodies that as well, because it's been so long at this point. It's like you see Katie and it's like, that's Bo-Katan right there. Like, you look at her and it's just like, that's Bo-Katan standing right there.
Yeah, right in front of you the whole time. Dave Filoni, quote in there says, there's a big question at the end of season 2 of what will Mando do next? Is that relationship over? And life things don't always come to a perfect ending. I think things can continue on and your adventure continues every day. I used to think about it with Clone Wars all the time. When is that battle over? When is that struggle over? Because it culminates in Revenge of the Sith. But that can't be the ending for that show, even though that's the ending of that era. That took a while to figure out, which to me strikes forward. That's why we have the Bad Batch. We get to go see beyond Revenge of the Sith because that story never stops. We have endings, but there are always ways to continue on. And that continues in this. Actually, his quote continues later on. I think in some ways you want each season to have a feeling of an ending, but in a lot of what I've done, I don't like hard endings. I like reading books in a series and then thinking, oh, there's another book. This is going to keep going. It's always sad for me when an adventure ends and the characters are seemingly done with their journey. So I think there's always that little bit of hope that something can continue. It's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, it's definitely done. The Clone Wars into Bad Batch, Clone Wars into Rebels, Rebels into going to be into Ahsoka later on. It's always there, and that's what's great about Star Wars. You can have these series, have these like slices of time, but yet doesn't mean that it's a hard ending because these characters can always come back in other places, and their story can always continue in different mediums, whether it be film, movie, TV, comics, books, everywhere. I think it's a good, healthy way for them to look at it, and it's the best thing for the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, no one's ever really gone.
Good call. Good full. Absolutely. A couple more things. You got Rick Famuyiwa in the. I never say his name. I'm sorry. Famuyiwa. Okay. Always bad at names. I've been historically bad at names. There will be things in season 3 that once again have people talking about Grogu in incremental ways. He's growing as a character and in his partnership with Mando. As his relationship grows, Grogu has to become more central in things that are going on. He's now firmly at the hip of Mando in every adventure. One thing you can rely on, he'll still be melting hearts, even while, as ever, raising a little hell. I love that idea. I think it's great to continue in that. I think getting Rick on board has been great for the show. Mm-hmm. I think him being raised to executive producer, probably because it kind of let Dave Filoni step a little bit aside and start preparing for Ahsoka. I think that's got to happen because we're going to have these things more overlap and we're getting more and more. Remember, Mandalorian started, we had nothing. It was just Mandalorian. Then we added Book of Boba Fett. Now we're adding Ahsoka. This is going to start continuing going on. We're going to have to.
Then we're going to add Skeleton Crew.
Exactly. We have to avoid burning anybody out. So elevating talented people like Rick up helps you transition that better and keep the quality on the original show up while you still get more quality out there. So. One last quote I want to talk about, kind of an interesting thing to me, was there was, of course, there is a part of the fandom that was upset, or not upset, but thought that wasn't a good idea that they reunited Mando and Grogu in the Book of Boba Fett instead of in Mandalorian. And I understand that to a degree. I mean, like, the thing is, it is the Mandalorian, and if you didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, you might be a little confused. Now, I would also argue the counter is that, first of all, you should know this is a continuing story wherever you go. And if you didn't like the Book of Boba Fett, and it's fine. I'm not saying you have to like the Book of Boba Fett. Not everything is for everybody. But you can at least understand that something happened in there and maybe check out those episodes. It's only 2 episodes you'd have to watch, even if you didn't like it, to check out the Mando part of it. And furthermore, there's enough time between, enough articles out there. It's not like it's a surprise to anybody. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody.
Yeah.
And hell, they just issued a recap today, a recap video on Star Wars, the official YouTube site, which is a recap that shows Mandalorian stuff and also Book of Boba Fett stuff. It's enough to get us back involved. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. I don't think it's going to be that hard to catch people up if they didn't. If the casual fan who didn't see any of this, I don't think it's going to be that hard to catch them up. I really don't. Okay, so we went off with Luke. Obviously, something happened. He's back with with our hero. Okay. The quote was, "We couldn't just hit a hard reset." It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds for people who may not have seen the Book of Boba Fett, but I think the Book of Boba Fett offered time to pass. You saw what Mando was like without Baby Yoda. We saw what Grogu was like without Mandalorian, and neither of them was doing too good. So them coming back together was a really good plot point that allows us to jump back into season 3 while maintaining the central relationship. And that's a very important part too, because to me, you realize a couple different things. I think some of these things, they plan out straightforward, but they kind of take it audible here and there. The central thing about Mandalorian is the Din and Grogu relationship. That's the main thing. That is the central point. We only have 8 episodes in a season. Yeah, we can't spend too many of those things with Din and Grogu being apart. If you have like 3, let's say they had 2 or 3 episodes to get them back in Mandalorian, that means you're down to 5 episodes with the 2 of them together, and that kind of feels like it doesn't do the show any good. It kind of sells out your central heartbeat, so to speak. But beyond that, it does also say, it said, well, the upcoming season restores the show's original dynamic. It was important that Grogu's time with Luke wasn't for nothing. It just ultimately wasn't his path. Favreau explains, I think you had to service both things. Just because the kid had potential in training, does he belong away from the Mandalorian? I saw it more like Paper Moon, where the whole thing is about delivering the kid to the blood relative, only to realize that whether genetically, through her father, or just through bonding, Tatum O'Neal has to end up with Ryan O'Neal. That ending feels really good to me. And this little kid, Grogu, is given a decision to choose, and the kid chooses the emotional relationship and wants to be with the Mandalorian and passing up Yoda's lightsaber. Part of you wants to see him develop in that way, and part of the other. You have this interesting character with Jedi training to some extent, Force ability, but is also joining the Mandalorian culture, which is what we've established as something you can opt into. It demands a lot, it offers a lot. Historically, Mandalorians has developed all these tools, armor, and weapons to be able to counteract the Force abilities of a Jedi. So as a storyteller, this offers tremendous opportunity. Again, I think some people aren't going to be happy with that still. I think there are people who weren't happy about it ending the Book of Boba Fett are still not going to be happy with that answer, I don't think. But I think it's a valid answer. I think to get it reset to the dynamic we need, I think it was okay to do that as a spinoff. It's a crossover.
Yeah, but you're never going to appease everyone. I mean, I can explain how Grogu got back to Din in under 2 minutes. It's not hard. You say, he was with Luke. He didn't want to be a Jedi. He wanted to go back to the Mandalorian. So he went to Tatooine to find him. Done.
Boom.
Explained. You know, I just did it right then and there. It's not hard to do. It's not hard to catch someone up who doesn't know. If someone says to you, "Oh, I thought I thought Baby Yoda went away," you just say that. It's not that hard. The Mandalorian is lone wolf and cub. That's right. That's what this story is. It's the story, it's the Mandalorian in title, but the story is about these 2 characters. And guess what, guys? Grogu's a Mandalorian too. I hate to, feed into that. You may not like it, but he is part of the clan of 2, which makes him a Mandalorian.
Absolutely. So I'm agreeing with that completely. But all right, that is our news bits, as it were. We should get into our actual episode. We talk about the Bad Batch episode 9 in the 2nd season, called The Crossing. And of course, as we always do on Holy Snokes, we take little segments. This is how we review. We don't go into deep dive. We do it through segments. So we kind of gloss everything and then we catch up at the end. Hopefully you'll come along on this journey with us. Let's start with our first segment that we always do on Holy Snokes. Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. Here we go. Here we go. It's time for Hondo Watch.
Who wants to see Hondo's book? Talk to me.
This is where we ask, did Hondo Ohnaka appear in this week's episode of The Bad Batch? And the answer, my friends,
This effort is no longer profitable.
Almost had me.
almost.
You bastards. You almost had me.
On several occasions, actually, on a couple different occasions, I really did. He actually, yes, he does not appear, unfortunately. No, he does not appear in this week's episode. Or does he?
No.
Or
Someone
does he?
stolen his jacket.
That's what it is. It's kind of like one of those things. We had a thief who takes the Marauder away from the planet. They never show the face of the thief. Definitely had his jacket a little bit. Hondo is a ship thief. So could it be revealed that that was actually Hondo Ohnaka? It could be. But as of now, we have to say no.
I hate to break it, dude. I did a close-up look at him when he was on the bike.
Oh, did you?
It's not him.
Okay.
It's not him. I saw, dude. When I first saw them, whoever it is, I let out the biggest scream because I was like, "Yes, it's him! He's here! Yes!" But then I saw him up close, and I was like, "Wait a second,
man.
where are the dreadlocks?"
God.
I was like, that looks like that's his jacket.
I thought he might be underneath the helmet or something.
It's a similar helmet, but he doesn't wear feathers, and he can't cut the dreadlocks off.
No, maybe I thought maybe he stuffed them up underneath the helmet or something, but I just wouldn't say way.
I'm gonna save for the speculation.
Okay. I have some similar thoughts, I believe, so I too will hold them until you have that conversation. I think we're on the same page. We have not talked about this beforehand. This is all like just using the Force telepathically talking to each other right now. Talking to each other. All right, let's get into our next segment here. We call this the mission briefing.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
As we briefly break down the episode as far as the plot goes, we know what we're talking about here. Obviously, this takes place right after our big two-part mid-event where Palpatine basically screwed them over again. The clone troopers have lost Echo, is no longer part of the batch at this point, or at least for temporarily. And the four remaining, I guess, the 3 plus Omega, head to a planet to mine Ipsium for Sid. It's a volatile material. Kind of sounds like it's not something that happens a lot in Star Wars. You know, you have that plot point in Solo, and although we got the coaxium and things like that. A lot
Very similar.
A lot of minerals that are very volatile. But they go to the planet. It's more of a dramatic, it's more of a family drama than anything else, really. They see different reactions to Echo leaving, different reactions to where they are now as a team, what they're doing now as a team. There's not a lot of there's no big action beats. The only people who appeared in the whole episode are the Bad Batch, this unnamed thief who's in there for about 30 seconds, and a 30-second hologram of Sid at the end. It's all about the interpersonal dynamics, which again makes sense to me after a bigger episode. But of course, they get into the mine. They have some issues with weather, with planets, with the animals stampeding. They get locked into a different mine after not being able to get too much out of the first mine and got a little part of the mine. They find more Ipsium. There's a cave-in. They have to figure their way out of it. Of course, the thief comes, takes the Marauder, and they're stranded on this planet now, breaking them down even further, especially Omega at this point. And they have to they work their way to a settlement. They find the settlement is not active. It's abandoned. It's been out for a long time. Tech is able to get an array up to at least get a message out to Sid, who they have to kind of cajole a little bit more than they should have to help them out, considering how much they've helped her out, and they remind her of that. But then we're left. It's actually that was the most interesting part to me, is we ended the episode without a resolution. Usually this kind of episode that has okay, they did the mining thing, they somehow get the ship back and they get off air and we're all good. No, we're still without the Marauder, who's with an unknown thief. and we're on the planet waiting without food, without any help, waiting for Sid to come through to help get them out off planet. So that's where we are. I'll get to more soon. Any first thoughts that you want to?
Yeah, I feel like this. I liked the correlation between the mineral of Ipsium and the kind of the nature of the family dynamic. I felt like it was very much one and the same. It just took that one little thing to set Omega off of Tech saying, "What is your issue?"
Yeah.
And I feel like there was. It's a good lesson. This episode is a really good lesson that everyone grieves loss in their own way. I know personally I'm a lot more like Tech in that I close myself off and I just get on with things and I just get on and deal. And I actually want to shout out Mike Forrester from the Armor Party podcast. I was listening to him talk with the Thank the Maker podcast on this week's episode. Please go check it out. That he was saying how this was a really good representation of people who are neurodivergent. And
I was going to get into that. Yeah, absolutely.
And he explained it far better than I ever could. So go check that out. Go listen to the Thank the Maker episode this week. And it's just a reminder to me that everyone who's saying these episodes are filler, are weak, whatever, you need to remember that there could be a kid out there that watches an episode like this, relates to someone like Tech, and is like, finally, a character I can relate to. I feel like that. So I thought that was really powerful. And having someone else put that into perspective for me, I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
It really hammered home the importance of like every episode matters in a certain way.
Absolutely. My wife has been a special ed teacher at one point, and she dealt with so I learned a lot about autism and things of that nature, and a lot throughout my career, throughout her career, I should say. And I noticed that right away too. I've always thought that Tech was someone they were trying to showcase as someone perhaps on the spectrum. Never quite as clearly as this episode, and then made it. And that was what I loved about the most. And exactly, I agree with it. I didn't get a chance to listen to the Thank the Maker podcast. I'm going to afterwards because I agree 110%. This is a showcase for that. This is where we get, again, more character development. We get to see Tech's inner working. We don't ever get to see Tech beyond his unintentional comedy, as you used to call, because it comes out of his social dysfunction, as you were. He has a hard time explaining himself. He has a hard time empathizing with people. He takes things very literally. And in that case, but what's best about this episode particularly is that it goes a little bit beyond that. It's not like the butt of a joke. It's not like anything. It actually has serious repercussions in the family dynamic. And you see him, some of the things, like, for example, when he gets harsh with Omega and says, "This what happens. What is your issue?" You see that emotion in him that he doesn't tend to show very often. He actually goes off, and it's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. As far as showcasing, he's losing his cool. He's someone who always has his cool. He's losing his cool. He's showing it a little bit. And showcase that he is hurt too. He is hurt by Echo leaving. He is hurt by Crosshair leaving. He's never shown it because he rationally explains it. He's, this is what happened. We have to move on. That's what has to happen. I'm gonna segment.
I was hoping for the whole squad, but you do.
Sorry for the not so great introduction of next segment. The next segment is the Bachelor, who is our favorite bad Bachelor of the week for every character of the week. I'm going to say I'm going to go right into it. It's Tech for me because of exactly that purposes. Because Tech showcased that, and we had that great dynamic between not only Tech and Omega, but Tech and Wrecker. Tech takes the entire episode really hammering on Wrecker beyond his normal capability. Him and Wrecker have always had kind of like this little give and take of, Wrecker, you're kind of a big dumb oaf. You're going to mess things up. You got to do it this way. And Wrecker gives it back, to give and take it a little bit. But it's very pointed this whole time because Tech is obviously trying to process the feelings that he's feeling. He can't process them in any other way. He lashes out at Omega. Hunter, the father that he is, he's like, Tech, she's a kid and she's not handling this well. You have to talk to her. Hunter's not going to go calm her down this time. You have to do it because you're the one who fucked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Tech's like, he gets it a little bit. I think he struggles with it. He's like, okay, I understand that somehow I made this. I have to fix it. They have this whole moment, and after the two cool things. First of all, when Omega finds this other vein of Ipsium, they starts on her own, just starting to drill it. And I love that dynamic all of a sudden, because I got to be honest with you, Omega was my other choice this week for various reasons, because she showed a lot of growth in this episode as well. From her at first being very upset, her usual upset us like back when Hunter got captured. Oh, we got to do this. Oh, we can't do this. And getting mad and everything else. But she had that moment where she understands that things are not always ideal. She had to walk away, take that step. She starts working on stuff. So she falls down this crevice. And how awesome is it that Tech just immediately jumps in after her? It's so not a Tech thing to do. It's a very irrational thing to do. Wrecker absolutely jumps right in, no matter his height. He wants to save Hunter, going to save the girl. Tech is usually the one who'd be like, well, I got to figure out the best way to go down there. But Tech jumps right in after her. And I'm washing up on this earlier other part of the mind, and they have this great conversation, wonderful conversation, and he shows it that he too, he finally lets out. He's like, it's one of my. It's just a great moment between them where they showcase the love between the family, the characters, and where they are. So that's why Tech is my favorite of the episode of the week. Our favorite character, Bad Batcher of the week.
Yeah, I love that kind of. I guess I call it the circle of life moment.
Yeah.
When they're having the talk on the bank, and we'll get to that in the next segment.
Mm-hmm.
But my Bachelor of the week, because I wanted to go with the Kiner brothers at first, because there's the score for this episode. Woo, that Western, no effects or anything like Ludwig likes to throw in there, like just nylon string guitar, very Western. I was like, oh man, if I could give it to those boys. But mine is Wrecker.
Oh, okay, interesting.
He risked his life to jump down and protect the Ipsium. Almost got Mufasa'd.
The Lion King moment.
I thought that was a Lion King Mufasa moment. I was like, no, Wrecker's gonna get run over. No, they're gonna have to carry him back, and he's gonna be injured, and it's just gonna make it worse.
Right.
Like he is the main one. I know Hunter like spurs it on a little bit, but Wrecker's the one that gives Tech the reality check.
Right.
Like there's that one moment where it's like he looks at him and he just gives him that like death glare, and it holds on him for a few moments, and he's just like, go fix this. You did this. Go fix it. And like, you're right, they do have a bit of a tete-a-tete back and forth, but it's never been more prominent than in this episode, because right from the start, Tech is blaming Wrecker, and rightfully so, he is blaming because Wrecker was on lookout. But it's like, then Wrecker's like, all right, you think you can carry it? You take the Ipsium. I'm done being the pack mule. You take it.
Right.
And then Tech messes that up.
Right.
It's I think it's definitely between those two. And I could not have let out a bigger howl of laughter than when Omega and Tech are having the moment, and then suddenly you just hear Wrecker screaming. He says, "Ah!" And then he just comes flailing out of the water. And it's not like a sudden drop. He's like flailing, like, ah! Boom, straight in.
No, that was pretty Bad Batch. You have to have that poignant moment, and you have to have it followed up by a moment of levity. Makes it you're still enjoying the episode and not just getting sunk into the sadness, as it were. I do agree with you. That's a great part. That's a great part. But I love that too. I love Record's a great call on that one as well. Okay, let's move on to our next segment. Then to that we got
the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
iSpec, which is basically our favorite lines of dialogue from the episode. And I had a bunch this week. I had a bunch I wanted to try out, but I'll let you go first. I think you're going to say my one I was going to say, but go ahead.
I only had one. It was, I'm not sure I should care about change. It is a fundamental part of life. as someone who has over the last few years gone, as we all have, like my life has undergone serious changes
Mm.
to the point where I am a completely different person to who I was 2-3 years ago. That I was kind of like, damn, like I was sitting there just like, damn, I feel like Omega at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Tech was saying that to me. So yeah,
Wow.
that's my one for the week.
I get that, and I appreciate that. I like that one a lot. I had a couple. I lean towards the humor, a couple of humorous ones that showcase things. I love the Omega. I know, and the record. What about protecting me? Great moments, great funny moments, and everything else. But the one I kept getting drawn back to was the overall episode for me was the neurodivergency part of Tech. That was really the big thing for me. It was Omega's also acceptance and growth as a character as well. I think I keep going on Tech. I do want to highlight Omega's growth in this episode was something tremendous. If you hold on, you kind of feel like at the end of the episode, you see a kid who is lashing out. She's lashing out. We lost Echo. We can't lose our home too, even though it's not rational. How are we gonna get the Marauder back? I have no fucking clue, kid. We have no idea. It's gone. We have no idea. It's turned off. They turned off the transponder. We have no idea where it is. We might have to get a different ship because we have no idea who has it or where it's going to be. This is like a 1 in a billion chance we're ever going to find the Marauder at this point. And she's like, "Well, we got it. It's our home." By the end,
Donkey's gone.
Right, gone. Exactly. Lulu's gone. I mean, the stuffed animal. They're all gone. Everything's gone. Her room is gone. But it's like by the end of the episode, she kind of has that moment with Tech, and she's like, "Why don't you care? All this stuff's happening. You don't care." And he's like, "I do care," basically. And the line I like was exactly from in that segment. Same type of thing, but I may process moments and thoughts differently, but it does not mean that I feel any less than you. And that right there showcases the neurodivergency. Tech's entire character and his relationship with Omega all of a sudden changes. So Omega, if she can really take that to heart, which we'll see as we go forward now, she understands that he does care. She's just like, wow, okay, she got that moment. He just shows it differently. He maybe doesn't show it like I do, but he does care. And it's a great family moment. So that's where I go with Expect this week. It's always weird. I kind of find myself always going, do I want a humorous one? Do I want the serious one? This one had to be the serious one, though.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to our next segment. We call this one, Put That in Your Holocron and Snoke It.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Hit me, Matty. What's your time where we actually decide what in this episode makes you want to explore something a little bit more?
I mean, there wasn't that much in this one, but the one that did stick out to me was the platforms that they walk on to go into the mines look very similar, if not the same. And I feel like this is where like I have an advantage having played the video games. They look very similar to the platforms you step on to get into the temple in Ilum.
Oh, okay.
Like very similar.
Oh.
So I'm wondering if there's a connection between the mines and the temple in Ilum, because when Omega first finds the new vein of Ipsium, I just saw the blue stone and I was like,
Kyber?
Is that Kyber?
I did the same thing.
Because
like,
I saw
here.
I saw the platform and then I was like, wait, is that? And then they opened up the vein and they saw it was Ipsium. And I was just like, oh, okay.
I got the same thing. I was like, oh my God, we're going here. This is what an interesting turn this is going to be. But yeah.
We'll use it.
Why would she else? She would find it. She would find the Kyber, wouldn't she?
Hmm.
All right. For me, well, we got the Book of Boba Fett, right? As a special kind of spin-off of The Mandalorian. We've gotten Tales of the Jedi. Where's my Rex and Echo sensitive mission spinoff? That's what I want to see now. Let's see more Echoes on a sensitive mission. What sensitive mission? What is he doing? Let's find out. Let's get a bonus time episode of Bad Batch where we get to see what's going on between Echo and Rex at that point. And maybe I'll even throw this out there as Echo meet Luthen. I'm just throwing it out there. That'd be kind of a cool thing to have happen.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I hope they are legit on a sensitive mission and that wasn't the way of Hunter just being like, "Shut up, Tuck."
Right. I think he is probably on some kind of mission. I don't know if we're ever going to see anything. It might be a throwaway line because we know it echoes off with Rex. We'll never see it. But the fact that they mention it, we go, I want to know more. It lets you open up the door case that maybe if they do decide to, maybe Dave Filoni one day will go, because the way the Filoni has always worked, he's always like, he knows what's going on. He's like, sure, Echo's in a sense of the mission. He's probably broadcasted his mind some generalities of it. Well, maybe 5 years down the road ago, what was Echo and Rex's sense of the mission? Let's do that. Let's tackle that.
Yeah, there's a whole 7 more seasons of Clone Wars stuck inside Dave Filoni's head.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to the next segment, parsecs out of 11.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
This is where we rank the episode 1 to 11 because we always turned up to 11 here on PLD Projects. What do you give this episode of The Bad Batch?
It would have been an 8 if they didn't give me #fake Hondo.
Fake Hondo knocks it down. Okay.
I am deducting a whole point because they faked me out with the Hondo. Like that was not cool. That's not okay. But other than that, yeah, it was a really heartwarming episode. It was, as we call them, enhancement episodes. A lot of character development in this. We got to see, the Bad Batch starting to entrust Omega with more dangerous responsibilities and roles within the squad. Like, you're having a child go and handle extracting this volatile mineral. Like, it's a pretty dangerous thing to be doing, kid.
You're right.
But yeah, great episode. I really enjoyed it.
Good. I'm gonna give it a 7.5. I really did enjoy it for that reason. It was a 7 for being a fun episode at first, but then when he really got into some of that detail and that neurodivergency and Omega's growth, I couldn't help but go, this is really an episode that it might miss a lot of fans. It might miss a lot of the hardcore Pew Pew fans and people who want to see more from Rex and Crosshair and all stuff. They want that main storyline. But if you open your heart up to it, you allow yourself to watch the story and take in what they're trying to tell you. And if you really love the characters of the Bad Batch, this is a story that is critical to their development, and especially as a team. We didn't really mention it before, specifically. Well, we kind of touched on it, but overall, it was interesting to see that the team is dysfunctional at this point. Pretty dysfunctional. It's not
fractured.
I mean, they're definitely fractured. Echo leaving them hurt more than they would ever like to admit, but we saw that between Wrecker and Tech. We saw Tech being harsh to Omega. Hunter just seems to be trying to hold things together, and he's like, he doesn't even know what he's doing. He almost like, I almost wonder part of it, of his telling Tech he's got to fix it, is because, like, I don't know what to do, how to fix this. So you know what? You made this mess. Go fix it, because I don't even know how to fix it at this point. Do something. So it's kind of it's 7.5 because it's very important to see where we are. I want to see where we're going to go forward. Like, are we going to be more fractured? Are we going to get together? Is it the end of this arc? Is this arc the fractured Bad Batch arc until they find that spot to come home before we start hurtling towards the end? Maybe. I don't know. We're going to find out. But I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about what's going to go on. I did like this episode quite a bit. So that's where we are there. Let's go into our final topic before we do any final catch-ups. We got the final one, Force Vision.
Premonitions?
This is where we talk about the future, whether it be something from this episode, what's going to happen in either next episode or weeks from now, or in Ahsoka years from now, or post-Rise of Skywalker, something that's related to this episode to happen moving forward. What do you got for us there, Matty?
Sid may be a Trandoshan. She may look like a lizard, but I smell a rat.
Okay. Talk to me.
That ending combined with the fact that we're going to see her we've been told, watch out, because that loyalty is not always going to be reciprocated. Something's going to happen, and we already saw them start to snap at her and be like, look, we help you all the time. You don't do jack shit for us other than you don't tell people that we're there. Like, we can always just go someplace else.
Right.
We don't have the same ship anymore, so you can't track us. We can always go elsewhere.
Right.
So I feel like it's going to get to that point, and we talked about it on the episode, where Sid could be put in a position where she has to save her own scales and potentially give up the Bad Batch. That I feel like that is where we are very much leading to at that moment. Also, looking at that hashtag fake Hondo, they look fairly tan-skinned, similar size to Omega. I'm wondering if that was Boba. That is wild speculation. I could be dead wrong, but I think that was Boba.
That's an interesting call. I mean, interesting to see. Although, why would he be outside of his uniform? Well, I mean, there's always reasons, I guess. Very interesting. I do feel like I will say that it would not surprise me if we do know the thief, because they did do the typical Star Wars, like we're to show a masked individual, because we don't want you to know who it is, and you're going to later find out it is someone you know, which is potentially there. And that's one reason I thought maybe it was Hondo tied up in there. We could do it, but Hondo honestly doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of this particular storyline. However, I got 2 bits of Force Visions coming here. One of them also relates to Hondo. Sid's got to send help. Sid's tied up at the moment. It's Hondo! I'll get you where you're going. Oh, come on, kid.
Oh, what if Hondo arrives and because he looks so much like the guy who stole the ship, they open fire on Hondo?
That could be exactly kind of thing. I don't know. That sounds more like Watto. That could be the case. And get this: what if? And this is totally irresponsible speculation. It's not speculation. This is me wish hoping. We have an open slot in the Bad Batch.
I mean, Hondo is always looking for a crew.
So maybe a temporary. I mean, obviously, Hondo would never stay there, and he and Hunter would never get along. They'd be exact opposite.
Him and Wrecker would be the best of friends.
Hondo and Wrecker would be a best of friends. And then Hondo and Omega would have this very weird dynamic where Hondo could actually kind of like give her a little bit more like that street smart kind of stuff information, where she's trying to become but kind of almost like an Ezra dynamic, but a little bit even more stronger than that to a degree. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen at all, but it would be kind of cool. Give a temporary slot. But that would be the other Force Vision I had to say is going back to our quote from D. Bradley Baker in our news segment, the Crosshair episode. Crosshairs are coming. I remember last episode I talked about, or the last during the mid-season event, I kind of was like, well, why didn't Crosshair appear here? It made sense that Crosshair would appear here. Crosshair was going to be, they had an assassin that was basically filling Crosshair's role. That doesn't make any sense. What's going on? And to me, part of it goes, well, I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to get him, but I think Crosshair's doing a lot more soul searching behind the scenes than we even thought. Because last time we saw him, I believe it was Solitary Clone, right? Solitary Clone after that whole thing, after Cody leaves, and he's like sitting there like Callus style in that in his room. Maybe he's not the assassin because he's not sure what he wants to do anymore. He's doing a lot of soul searching. Maybe the next time we see him, he might not be so pro Empire at that point. And but the fact that he doesn't show up in that episode where he should have showed up is the key to that. As in, like, he's doing some more soul searching behind the scenes. Maybe he does come get them. Maybe he's working. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot on my plate here. There's a lot of tension here. Could it be that thief is no one at all? Absolutely could be. Absolutely could be. And I will not be disappointed, honestly, because if you're going to choose to speculate a little bit irresponsibly like we are, then you got to understand and part of that is you have to accept what actually happens and not be completely disappointed by it. So.
I mean, they got to get Gonky back somehow. Absolutely. And going back to the Sid thing, you bring up the lesson learned. Sid betraying them would also teach Omega a valuable lesson, as to quote the great Dr. Cox from Scrubs, people are bastard-coated bastards with bastard feeling. Like not everyone's a good person. Like just because you did something for them doesn't mean they're going to do something in kind for you.
Right. Absolutely.
But the same could be said that someone that once wronged you could also be forgiven.
Right.
In Crosshair.
Absolutely. So I don't know. I think it's going to happen. Of course, part of it also you have to understand we don't know whether this is the end or not. We still talked about that last week. We don't have a season 3 announcement or anything like that. We don't. So I don't know if they're planning on a season 3 or not. Kind of feeling that in this day and age, especially in Lucasfilm, Dave Filoni doesn't not necessarily gets what he wants, but I think he would be owed a look. We're leaning on canceling this, or look, we're leaning on giving us season 3, so they can plot out a story as accordingly. I think at this point, at least at this point. I mean, when there was a Clone Wars in it, there was a little chaotic time there, so it was a little bit different story. So I don't know, but I think that's a big clue. If Bad Batch is going to end after this season, then it's going to be Crosshair coming back strong, coming back good. That's my feeling.
Yeah.
If not, then that will be season 3.
Yeah, no, I agree. And with like, even just looking at some of the episode titles, which I really should stop doing, it does point to this could be it.
It does. So we've made a lot of growth so far, and where else can it go at the end? So it'll lead into more rebellion aspect of it. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But hopefully we get us more animated announcements from Celebration as well, because that hasn't been talked about. We had nothing on the animation side except for like as far as news wise. We have all these live action things going on, the movie talk about. We have Bad Batch, we have Visions coming up. But beyond that, we're like nothing. So I like to get something in the works. I love the animated side of Star Wars very much, and I think it's well worth exploring at this point. So that's what we're gonna hope for. So, all right. Any last bits on this episode or anything else?
No. I've covered everything on my end.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the same thing because it wasn't a very it was a dense psychologically a dense episode, but as far as things actually happening to talk about, it wasn't that much. It was more the in-depth parts of it you have to go into. So nothing else really. I think we touched on everything pretty much. So that'll do it for this week, folks. Thanks for sticking around. If this is your first time here, leave that like, leave that subscribe. Trying to march towards 500 subscribers. We really would appreciate that. A lot of stuff going on here every week now. Actually, every week Holy Snokes is here. That's for sure. And next month, it'll be here twice a week because we're going to have a Mandalorian episode and we'll have a Bad Batch episode. We're always going to have an episode per show every time something comes out. We're going to do a special when the Visions come out. Maybe break that down to a couple episodes. But also have other stuff on this channel that are non-Star Wars related. We have Class Action, which is now going bi-weekly. Myself, Matty, Richard, Eric, Jarvie, putting up 2 items up against each other. Custom-made categories, like yesterday we did Kingsman, Secret Service, and Kick-Ass. Put up against 5 categories and determined which film was the winner. 2 Mediocre White Dudes on Film returns tomorrow night. Me and PJ going to Lethal Weapon 2, and that's going to be going bi-weekly as well. Finishing the Lethal Weapon franchise, as well as some exciting franchises coming up for that. And also Crown Jewels, A Journey Through Queen, and do that weekly as well. And we have a couple other things coming up as well, some irregular podcasts. By irregular, I don't just mean they're weird. I just mean that they won't be weekly. They'll be shot in bulk and released in batches. Not bad batches, but batches. Nonetheless.
Rad batches.
Rad batches. There you go. Matty, where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. You can find my band Mourner, Mourner, on all DSPs. You can find me here every other Tuesday for Class Action, every Wednesday for Holy Snokes, and you can find me every Friday and Monday on the Wild Jones Podcast Network for the ONU MMA show, where we break down all the world events in fight sports and talk about cards, betting tips, all that good stuff. So come join us over there if you're a fan of that stuff.
Very nice. At Paul_Denuzio on Twitter. I already told you all my stuff here on PLD Projects. But also next week I'll be on SCN Live. I'll be also in March. I'm starting to produce SCN Live with Malcolm. That should be a lot of fun with Roxy and Roxy Stryer and folks over there, trying to revamp it a little bit and see if we can change things up a little bit, give it a little new direction potentially. Having some conversations there, that should be fun. Other than that, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Got some great people there like Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina, a bunch of the people you really keep the lights on for us. I really do appreciate you guys tremendously. But that's it. Until next time, of course, we will be back for Bad Batch more, and Mandalorian is coming. I can't wait. Until next time, folks. Bye now. May the Force be with you. Always.